Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're taking a look at Marilynne Robinson's Gilead,
Oh, I love that book.
specifically the letters from John Ames.
Uh-huh.
John Ames is an aging pastor writing to his young son. It's less of a story and more of an outpouring of a lifetime of wisdom, knowing that his time is running out.
Yes, and that framing device, a dying man's letter, it adds so much weight
It does.
to even the most mundane details. You can't help but feel like you're
Oh, yeah.
eavesdropping on something very private and personal, don't you think?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's full of this quiet desperation to pass something profound on to the next generation.
Yeah, it really emphasizes that idea that the things that are important aren't facts or events, but the
Right.
bigger questions.
Yeah.
Wrestling with faith, coming to terms with the legacy we inherit from our parents and grandparents.
It's interesting.
I find myself fascinated by how Ames's awareness of his own mortality shapes his reflections. It's like he's trying to squeeze an entire lifetime into these letters for his son.
He doesn't shy away from his doubts, his failures,
Mm,
even his frustration. He's so deeply human, a man wrestling with faith, but not as a theological concept, but as a lived experience full of complexities and contradictions.
You really get the sense that he has spent a lot of time alone thinking about all of this.
Yeah.
He talks about the long nights he spends in his study, writing sermons, grappling with scripture.
Right.
So there's this feeling of isolation, but also a deep connection to his own inner world.
And that solitude
Yeah.
becomes a motif, almost a character in itself.
Well, that's interesting.
It's in these quiet moments that he really seems to confront his mortality, wrestle with his past, and search for meaning in the smallest details of life. It's where he processes the weight of his family's legacy.
Yes, and that family history, particularly the contrast between his father and his grandfather,
Mm.
that has to play a part in shaping Ames's own beliefs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about that family dynamic, particularly that stark contrast between his father and his grandfather.
Okay, yeah.
How do you think that plays into Ames's own beliefs?
Well, that grandfather is something else,
He is.
He's a force of nature, a man who literally bears the scars of his convictions,
Yeah.
the twisted hand from grabbing a gun barrel, the stories of him stealing laundry to give to the poor.
Wow.
It all paints this picture of a man who puts action behind his beliefs,
Right.
even defying societal norms.
It's almost mythical,
Right.
like a folktale, a figure out of legend,
Right.
which begs the question, how did Ames's father, a man who seemingly embraces a quieter, more introspective kind of faith,
Uh-huh.
reconcile with such a formidable presence?
That's the question, isn't it?
There's definitely tension, this sense of unspoken conflict. Ames's father's turn to Quakerism after the Civil War,
Right.
which is in such stark contrast to his father's fiery abolitionism.
Yeah.
It really suggests this deep struggle to reconcile his own path with the legacy that he inherited.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that raises a great question for all of us. How do we as individuals come to terms with the beliefs and actions, often contradictory of our
Yeah.
ancestors?
It's such a powerful question.
Yeah.
It resonates on such a deep level. We all inherit stories and values, and it's up to each of us to decide how to weave that into our own lives.
Yes, and it's in that weaving,
Yeah.
that grappling,
Right.
that we define ourselves,
Yeah.
forge our own paths, even if it means diverging from those who came before us. And this struggle is made even more complex for Ames by the arrival of a character named Jack Boughton. He really embodies both the darkness and the light of the family's past.
Jack is such a fascinating character
Uh,
and unsettling at the same time.
Yeah. Ames seems so drawn to him, but also wary.
Hmm.
What's your take on their relationship?
Well, it's complicated.
Yeah.
There's so much history, shared experiences, and unspoken anxieties.
Right.
It's important to remember that Jack is the son of Ames's closest friend
Yeah.
and his namesake, too. So that adds another layer, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but he's also a reminder of Ames's own past mistakes, his moments of judgment and fear.
Jack represents this disruption, this challenge to the world that Ames has built for himself.
I think so.
And this disruption forces Ames to confront some uncomfortable truths about himself and about the nature of faith.
It's like Jack acts as a catalyst, forcing Ames to confront all of those aspects that he would rather keep hidden, those doubts and anxieties beneath the surface.
Ames even expresses concern for his young wife and son. He sees a darkness in Jack that he wants to protect his family from.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about that?
What's that?
That fear contrasts so strongly with Ames's role as a pastor.
Yeah.
A man tasked with offering forgiveness and guidance. It highlights that internal struggle, that clash between his duty and his own personal fears. It makes me wonder, how do we balance that desire to protect those we love with the knowledge that we can't shield them from everything?
I think it's a dilemma that every parent faces.
Yeah.
At one point or another, it's like this broader theme running through the excerpts.
What's that?
The tension between our longing for order
Right.
and control,
Yeah.
and the fact that life is often messy and unpredictable. It's in those surprises, those unexpected turns, that we're forced to re-examine everything we thought we knew.
I think you're right.
I think it's time to explore Ames's spiritual journey a bit more,
Okay.
and how his beliefs are challenged and affirmed by the events around him. Tell me, how would you describe his approach to faith?
Well, it's complex. It's not just blindly accepting everything he's told, more of a lived experience, this constant conversation he's having with the divine, full of doubts and struggles and moments of profound grace. It's really something.
He does seem to be constantly searching, questioning, trying to reconcile the teachings of the church with what he sees in the world around him.
Yeah, and he mentions struggling to even write his sermons, falling asleep in his chair with the light still burning. It reveals a certain vulnerability. I find it endearing and thought-provoking. Even this pillar of faith, this man of God, he experiences moments of weakness and exhaustion, and maybe even a flicker of doubt.
It's humanizing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Makes him relatable. We all have those moments when our ideals clash with reality,
Yeah.
when we can't even live up to our own expectations.
Of course.
Let alone the expectations of others.
And for Ames, it has to be even more amplified by his awareness that he's dying.
Absolutely.
He's not dealing with faith as some abstract concept.
Right.
He's staring down the ultimate mystery, trying to find meaning in a life full of joy and sorrow, triumph and tragedy, and pass on that understanding
Thanks a lot.
to his son. And while he's on this spiritual quest,
Yeah.
he's also navigating all of the complexities of relationships,
Mm-hmm.
the joy and challenges of love and loss and forgiveness. We talked about Jack, but there's also his deep love for his wife
Right.
and his son.
Yeah, his marriage late in life really seems to have brought him peace.
It does.
He speaks of her with such tenderness. It's so different from, how formal he is about the past.
Yeah.
It's like he's been given a second chance.
Happiness.
A kind of redemption after a life of loss and heartache.
It really makes you think about the fact that even near the end, we can still find love and joy in unexpected ways.
And it makes his fear about Jack even more understandable. He wants to protect that happiness, wants to shield his wife and son from whatever darkness he sees in Jack. But he also knows he can't control them. They have to make their own choices, even if those choices lead to pain.
Yeah, that's something a lot of parents can understand.
You think so?
Oh yeah, that desire to guide our children and protect them.
Right.
But ultimately knowing we have to let them go,
Yeah.
make their own mistakes.
Maybe it's in those mistakes that we learn the most.
I think so.
Ames even says that his own faith has been shaped, not just by these moments of spiritual clarity, but also by times of doubt and confusion and even despair.
It's in those dark times that we have to confront our own limitations,
I think you're right.
our need for grace and forgiveness.
And I think in those moments,
Yeah.
when we acknowledge our own brokenness, we're open to change.
It's not about pretending to be perfect, is it?
Not at all.
It's recognizing that we're all human. We all make mistakes. We need each other. We need understanding. And we need love.
And it's in that connection,
Yeah.
in that shared vulnerability,
That we find our strength.
and belonging.
That's where we belong. And I think that's what Ames wants to show his son through these letters.
That makes sense.
Not just giving advice,
Right.
but showing his story,
Right.
his struggles, his triumphs, his failures,
Yeah.
so that his son can find his own way.
It's a gift he's giving to all of us, isn't it? Through Ames's reflections, we're invited to examine our own beliefs, face our own doubts and fears,
Yeah.
to really embrace life.
In all its messiness,
Yeah,
complicated.
but beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a reminder that faith isn't about having all the answers.
No.
It's not about escaping pain and suffering either.
It's about finding meaning in the chaos,
Holding on to hope
even in the darkness.
and embracing the mystery of it all.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
And realizing that we're not alone in all of this.
Yeah.
Ames may be writing to his son, but his words are for all of us.
Yeah. Everyone who is searching for meaning and purpose and connection.
There's this strong sense of community that comes through.
There is.
A reminder that we're all part of something bigger.
We are.
A web of relationships,
That sustains us.
even in the darkest times.
And it's in that community, that
Mhm.
web of connections,
Yeah.
that we find the strength to face our fears and to embrace who we truly are.
Ames might be nearing the end of his life,
Mm-hmm.
but his legacy will continue
Through his words.
through the lives he touches,
And the ripples of grace that extend outward.
connecting us all.
That's right. As we keep going through these letters, I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how he tries to pass on this legacy.
Absolutely.
Like, what are the key lessons?
Yeah.
How does he use his stories and memories
That's fascinating.
to connect with his son?
Ames is trying to weave together so much in these letters.
He is.
His faith, his family, his love, his loss.
Yeah.
It's like this tapestry of wisdom he's creating for his son. What are the key threads there?
Embracing the messiness of life.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from his own struggles, his doubts, and his anger and resentment.
He's honest about how hard it is. Faith doesn't have all the answers.
And sometimes it leads you to some
Yeah.
uncomfortable places.
He's almost giving his son permission
Right.
to doubt,
Uh-huh.
to question,
To wrestle with all of it.
which is a refreshing perspective.
Yeah.
For a pastor especially.
And I think it goes back to grace. You know, it's not about following the rules
Oh.
or pretending to be perfect. It's about knowing you're going to screw up.
Yeah.
Knowing that you need forgiveness.
I love that image he uses,
Which one?
where he describes the world
Yeah.
shining like transfiguration.
Beautiful.
Even in the darkness,
Uh-huh.
there's this potential for redemption.
It transcends all our limits.
But to see that,
Yeah.
you need to look beyond the surface
Absolutely.
to see the complexity.
Yeah, and that's what he's trying to give his son. He's not trying to protect him from pain. He wants to give him the tools
Yeah.
to survive,
To find meaning even in the suffering.
to come out stronger on the other side,
More compassionate.
and more alive.
It makes me think about his relationship with Jack.
Oh, yeah,
He sees the darkness there,
he does.
but he also sees the potential
Right,
for something more.
right, for good.
And that's a struggle a lot of us face.
It is.
Trying to balance justice with compassion,
Mm-hmm.
holding people accountable,
Right.
but still seeing their humanity.
Their worth.
Ames doesn't give us the answers.
No, he doesn't.
He's honest about the struggle.
He really is.
He also talks a lot about the importance of stories as a way to connect,
As a way to share.
to make sense of it all.
Yeah, he writes his sermons. Not just because he has to,
Yeah.
but because he needs to.
It's his way of grappling with his beliefs.
Exploring these mysteries.
Right.
Finding meaning in everyday life.
And he hopes his son will read those sermons
He does.
and find something there
Find a connection.
that goes beyond time.
Mortality.
It's a beautiful thought.
It is.
Words have so much power
They really do.
to shape how we understand the world.
And ourselves.
Yeah, and each other.
Yeah, the legacies we leave behind. It's not just the stuff.
It's the stories,
The values.
our impact on others.
Ames can't give his son money
No.
or a name, but
No.
he's giving him something more valuable.
Something that will last.
A way to see the
A
world.
framework to understand it.
And that belief in grace.
It will keep resonating
Won't it?
long after he's gone,
I think so.
rippling outward.
And it's a reminder to us.
Yeah.
Our lives have meaning.
That our actions
Of course.
and even the smallest acts of kindness matter. Ames knows his time is limited,
Yeah.
but he chooses to focus on the beauty, on the connection. That's a message we can all take away.
It is.
No matter what we face,
Yeah.
there's always a chance for grace,
For redemption.
for that transfiguration.
That can light up even the darkest parts of us.
I have a feeling this story will stay with you.
Oh, I think so.
It will challenge you in ways you don't expect.
Maybe even change your perspective
It might even light your own path.
to a more meaningful life.
Keep seeking.
Keep questioning.
Keep embracing the power of grace.
Until next time.